I went to visit, and the first thing that struck me about this little 8-year-old boy, he looked only to be about 5 or 6. He was very small. He'd been very ill for several years, and he was very tiny, very pale. The thing that struck me most about him was that he had no hair. And I immediately related to a time when, going back to my childhood, my father shaved my head, which was not a good thing for him to do. And I can remember, as I looked at Mark, I remember the embarrassment and the torment and the shame that I felt having to go to school with, no hair. And so my heart straight away went out to Mark. He was beautiful. He was a beautiful child. The thing is, and I think often with children, they absolutely know what's going on with them. We try to protect them. Parents try to protect their children. But Mark absolutely knew that he was going to die. And he and his mother was hoping that I would produce the miracle that he wouldn't. I wish that I could have that direct line to God sometimes and say to him, can we do something about this one? But as a healer, it's very important that as I say my healing prayers and as I sit with my patients, it's very important for me to always remember to say, dear God, I will to thy will. Because as healers, it's not about what we want. We have to be very careful when we're giving healing. We can't ask, dear God, take the tumor away, dear God, take cancer away. We're simply there as a conduit. We know that everything is energy. We know that everything is about energy. And so as I held this child in my arms, as much as I desperately wanted to say, dear God, can we save this one? I will to thy will. Dear God, I will to thy will. And it is important also that as healers, we have to remember very much so that when we're giving healing, it's not about us and it's not about our pain. And we have to somehow put aside the pain that we feel, especially with our children. And we have to just nurture them and care for them and give them that healing energy that is so profound and so beautiful. When I give healing, I use visualization techniques and I use color because color is very important. Different colors mean different things. For instance, I'll visualize green as in peace and harmony. I'll visualize pink as in the color of love and beauty. I'll visualize blue, which is the most profound of all the healing colors, and I'll visualize these things. So with Mark, I visualize simply wrapping around a blue blanket around him and visualizing all of these threads of the blanket being the green, the pink, the gold, the beautiful colors that as we are visualizing, we are creating energy which is within ourselves, and that energy extends beyond us and then out to our patient. So I went to visit Mark a few times, and he was just a lovely child. And he would say to me, when his mother went into the kitchen to make tea, he would say to me, Rosemary, I'm dying. Can you tell me about heaven? And so I would tell him about heaven, and I would tell him about his angels, and I would tell him how his angels, gosh, it's so long ago, and it still it makes me emotional, but I would tell him how his angels would come to him and how they would, at that time when that moment happened, how his angels would lift him, and they would lift him to a safe and a warm and a beautiful garden. And he just wanted me to tell him these stories of heaven. The last time I went to see Mark, it was very emotional. He laid on the sofa. He was very weak by this time. He lay on the sofa and his mother was in the kitchen doing what she needed to do. And he whispered to me, Rosemary, I'm really, really tired and I really want to go, but I'm worried about my mummy. I'm worried that she's going to be all on her own. And I tried to say to him to not to worry, that God would help his mummy. But the most important thing right now was for us to make sure that he was comfortable, that he was cozy. And so once again, I thought to him about his angels. And as I held his hands and gave my energy to him and wrapped my energy around him, I said to him, you know, just why don't you close your eyes and I'll keep talking to you and I'll talk to you about your angels and it will be fine. Don't worry, everything will be fine. And he smiled at me and he said, can I go soon? Because I'm very tired. And I said, I expect you can. Don't worry about your mummy because I'll make sure she's okay. He went to sleep on the sofa with my talking to him about his angels. And by the next morning, little Mark was gone. I know a lot of people come to me, they think, you know, they come as a last resort very often to people like me, and they're looking for the miracle. As I held Mark's hands, I saw that miracle. I saw that miracle as he was being embraced by the light, as he was being embraced by his angels. I saw that miracle as I knew that he would soon be lifted and taken out of his physical body, using then his etheric body, the spirit body, he would be carried beautifully, safely, gently, and with so much love. That's all as healers we can do. We can do the very best we can do, but we mustn't ever, I feel, we mustn't ever say, dear God, can you do something about this? Can we change this somehow? When we're asking, could you please keep someone with us? I feel that perhaps we are asking, could you please stop this person having this beautiful experience of death and dying? Because death is not a punishment. It's a beautiful experience. It is not a punishment. It's something that is beautiful and incredible. And we're all going to get there, you know. We're all going to do that at some point. The inevitability of life is that we will die. But I feel, and because of my experiences, I feel very strongly that, you know, we're going to die, but death is not the end. It is only the beginning of a new stage of our lives. It's only the beginning of us going out there into the universe. I remember one of my healing centers a while ago, one of my patients said to Grey Eagle, you know, Grey Eagle, can you tell us what the universe is like? And I'm thinking, oh, gosh, that's a tough question. And Grey Eagle laughed and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, no, it isn't a tough question. It's really easy. The universe is like holes in a cheese. And if you know what an Emmenthal cheese looks like, or some cheeses that have holes running through them, if you get a big sphere of cheese and you cut it in half, you'll see the holes, the passageways, some cross, some are parallel, some intersect. And I quite see when Grey Eagle says the universe is like holes in a cheese, because when I travel, I go backwards. I always explain it as I go back and down and through the hole is the way that I describe it, is the best way. And I travel those passages and I travel to these places where, you know, wherever the universe takes me, wherever Grey Eagle needs me to be. So sometimes I travel because I'm giving healing. Sometimes I travel because I need to see something very clearly. I remember going into a house fire once in this same way, out watching as an observer, standing there and watching. And as I looked up, I could hear the father running and screaming and shouting and looking for his children to try to get them out of the fire. And I looked up and I saw an angel. And this angel stood with two children, one in either arm. And she looked at me and she said, Rosemary, 2 will stay here and 2 will come with me. It was so hard for me to hear it, it's so sad, but at the same time, it's so beautiful, because you know that God has decided that those two children who went with their angel have other things to do, continuing life and continuing their growth and continuing their spiritual growth. It's hard for us as human beings, I think, isn't it, to really understand what's going on. It's hard for us sometimes to understand when someone like myself says that death is beautiful and can be beautiful, and it really is beautiful. It's beautiful to watch. I've been very privileged to sit at the bedside of many people and hold their hands as I've watched them leaving. I've even actually traveled with a couple of my patients and being there when, it's almost a little bit like a waiting room where everyone in the spirit world is waiting for us and excited. Those who are left behind are in pain and suffering and grieving, but yet those in the spirit world are excited. It's almost like having a party. And I remember sitting in this waiting room, waiting for one of my patients, Marjorie, to come through. And all of a sudden I hear everybody whispering, she's coming. And I'm looking around, not seeing where they're, where is she coming from? How is she coming? Oh my gosh, it was the most wonderful experience. What really, really beautiful. My patient, Marjorie, who had died of cancer, suffered for many, many years, was sort of yellow-skinned, no hair. She had jaundice. She was very, very ill. But when Marjorie came through that passageway and her family embraced her mother, her father, her entire family who had passed, at first it was hard for me to recognize, who is that? Because the Marjorie that I knew was so ill-looking, and this beautiful, beautiful woman was healthy, happy, smiling. Her skin was beautiful, and as I say, it took me a minute or two to recognize this is Marjorie. And so, as much as we love being on this earth of ours, and as much as we love doing what we're doing, death is beautiful. It is not a punishment. And part of my job, a huge part of my job, is to connect with those in the spirit world, to bring them to their families, to join families together, to connect families together. And that is where I feel the greatest healing takes place.
I absolutely love that,
wow.
Rosemary. And
great.
The message of death being a beautiful experience.
Thank you.
Gives so much hope for all of us, especially in this year of 2020, where the media is constantly pushing us of these numbers of deaths from COVID, and it's sending people in a spiral of panic.
If I may say to everybody out there listening, I don't believe in the numbers, and I think the media is hyping things up.
Yes.
And if I can just say that my belief is firmly, you can't go before your time, whether you get COVID, cancer, heart attack, whatever it is. When God calls, that's when you go. And, so I do want to reassure people, please don't let fear overtake your common sense, and don't let fear rule you.
I love that. I can't agree more.
This has been our message now for almost a year here.
Yes.
And watching the media do what the media does, which, of course, is get ratings and advertise and all the other things. And it's not a responsible thing that they're doing. And I'll tell you, you're not the first guest to say they question the numbers, and also my channeling and also other guests have said that when this is all revealed later, there's going to be some surprises as to perhaps what actually happened.
Yes. I think what you mentioned earlier is that the most difficult part of the death experience is those who are left behind.
Correct.
Yes.
For those left behind, it is excruciating pain that the one that they have cherished and loved is no longer here in the physical. They are absolutely here in the spiritual, but it's hard for people to connect with that transition from the physical to the spiritual.
I watched,
and that's why it's so important what you're doing.
I watched in your both Facebook and the YouTube, those times when you do in consultation, I watched people's hearts when they were grieving. I watched it all go away. I mean, they just melted into an area that was so... I think they're going to be living longer because they're not grieving. This is healing. And this is what I think you bring to the planet in such a great way. We have, believe it or not, 6 minutes left. I'm going to give you the last word and to talk about anything you want to say to our people about anything at this point.
And I'm curious, have you had any skeptics that have kind of been dragged to you by others who have had a loved one pass?
Maybe that's for another show.
They don't believe anything of this, but then all of a sudden, I would love to hear of that experience.
There are so many. I remember being in an audience of people and giving this man at the front a message and describing his car, and he was convinced I got spies out in the car park telling me that there was a new car out there.
Spies in the car park.
Right. So, come on. So I just feel very, very privileged. That for some reason or another, some weird reason or another, that I've been chosen to do this work. I try to do it honoring those in the spirit world. A lot of people think that our priority is ourselves. My priority when I'm working is those in the spirit world. I am their voice, and I try to honor that. And for all of you out there who are listening, some of you will think I'm crazy. I am a little. The nicest people are a bit crazy, aren't they? And I just feel very strongly, just trust in yourselves, trust in God, trust in the healing process. You can't go wrong with that.
Absolutely.
We're actually, there's just a little more time.
But I would like people to know that Rosemary is available for consultations. And her website is rosemaryaltea.com. That's all one word. And you can also find Rosemary on Facebook. And Rosemary has many, many videos on Facebook that you can tune into and watch as well. And we were talking with Rosemary before this interview, and I love what she said about giving consultations, not readings.
Correct.
Because reading implies trying to read someone's minds, but she's actually doing a consultation. And Rosemary, I love that you have an entire team, an entourage from the spirit world. You want to share with us a little more about Grey Eagle?
Yeah, just a little.
All right. Well, I'm a little English girl, right? And, unlike everyone in America, we didn't. The only thing we knew about Native Americans, we did the cowboy and Indian thing. We used to go on a Saturday afternoon to watch cowboy and Indian movies. So for me to have in my living room, arriving right there in front of me, this, I have to say, gorgeous. He's laughing at me as I'm talking to this beautiful, beautiful man who says, I'm a passion. I'm thinking, oh, really, come on. No, don't do that to me. So I was very reluctant at first because I'm a feet on the ground kind of a person. I try to be sensible about these things, but I wouldn't have anybody else. He was a shaman when he lived on this earth. He was a shaman. He's so wise. He's able to teach me, he's able to guide me, and he does so with incredible gentleness, because I'm not the easiest. I'm sure I'm not the easiest person that he has to deal with. So he's just lovely. So a little English rose with a beautiful, beautiful Grey Eagle, and that's the two of us. And we've been working together now for, over 40 years.
Wonderful.
Astonishing. To me, remarkable. I love all that you're doing. I love the whole idea. Can I just say, for me in closing, one of the things we have taught, and these verbatim, is that life is not the end, that death is not the end, is that life is part of death and death is part of life, and that is a transition. and there's no judgment. And we have said this so often to try to let people understand that you transition from there's a transition from one kind of reality to another, but that other is not anything like it's been painted it to be all your life. And so many of us are painted into, I would say, a reality that says, well, this is what happens. And it isn't. And now we have Rosemary telling us some of the grandest stories. I love the fact that you're able to see this. The angel story in the fire. I'm going to remember that one for a very long time, my dear. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, my goodness. Well,
Yes.
anytime.
That's great.
And thank you very much, both of you. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your program.
You're very welcome.
Love and blessings.
Well.
And so now we are required to take a little break.
Yep, and that's what we're going to do.
That was very quick.
That's
So
great.
for those of you watching the live stream with us, you can take a 10-minute break. I know some of you will watch the replay and you probably don't even want the break.
That's right, but you can take it anyway.
You can take it anyway.
All right.
So take 10 minutes, get a drink of water, and then we're going to come back and continue with the Circle of 12.
Thank you.
Actually belong. It's the place you always were in before you were born. That is really home. You live in your soul. You are multidimensional when you are not here. Pure love consciousness, a part of the Creator. That's why we say you touch the face of God when you move into that direction of a relationship to your soul. Come with me to the middle of that bridge and see the swirling mist, if you choose. For all of those who have done this before, help the others who are just having right now the first time. Help the others, perhaps, who tend to go to sleep now. This is not the time to go to sleep, dear ones. There is an activity coming. This particular activity will be a setup for the next one. You'll see what I'm saying, and you'll understand more in a moment. Are you ready to come through the mist with me? Take off your shoes. A sign of honor, because your soul contains sacred ground. Your soul and the relationship with it is an approaching way to the face of God. Walk with me right now through the mist. Come closer. Come closer. Don't go away. Can you really do this? Is this real or not real? I want you to look around coming through the mist, and I want you, with your own choice, to see something beautiful. What is it? What's the most beautiful place you can be in? What does it mean to you? Is it in nature? Is it in the ocean? Perhaps. Is it in the clouds? Perhaps. Where do you feel most safe and at home and most loved? That's where you are. Can you visualize something that I don't give you to visualize? Now, that is the next step, is it not? Visualize whatever you wish to that is safe, commensurate with compassion, filled with love, where you just want to stay. There are some who say that at the point of death, this is where you go. You begin, the light is at the end of that tunnel, and this is where you begin. And they would be right, but this is not filled with a transition. This is simply a discovery of the magnificence of you. You get closer to us. You realize that, don't you? There is a type of portal. Call it a doorway if you wish. There's writing on the door. We have told you this before. Writing on the door you cannot understand, not yet, not now. It is your name. You knew that, didn't you? The door doesn't really truly exist. It means entrance. To you in 4D, it means a way to get into a place. Perhaps you won't need that later, but now you do. You go through that door and you come again to the theater. It's a sunken theater in the round where the stage is sunken and the seats are all around it in a stadium way. Sometimes the theater is small because you're only going to deal with a few. Sometimes it's large because of what happens there. But I'll tell you, it's a theater of revelation. Each time we do something different. That will not always be the case because we need to repeat some things and enhance them. Some of the ceremonies we've done there, we haven't really spent much time there, and I want to. The idea is you go down the stairs into that place where then you mount the stage and sit in a chair. The chair can be anything you want, but you do sit in it. And in certain cases, the audience files in. In certain cases, it's already there. This is going to be different because this is going to be an extension of next week. We're going to do something next week which requires not only your permission, but your full understanding of what actually might be going on with a circle of 12. Take a seat for a moment and watch those start to file in. Now, you're not going to recognize all of them. You might recognize some of them. And as you start this process, I'm going to ask you a question. Is it any accident that you've decided to be a member of the Circle of 12? Are you aware that you're connected at a soul level with all of them? There's a certain perception and mindset to anyone who would come and be a part of this on a regular basis and want to be here. To sit with us just for a moment every single week, over and over, enjoying it, loving it, and finding that there's healing here. Question, are you connected to the others or not? Some of you watch it live, some of you watch it later. It doesn't matter. I want to know, do you feel you're connected? Now it gets good, because I will tell you the very intent to be here connects the soul level of you to them. You're all here together. There are thousands of you, and they're filing into this theater now because of what's going to happen next week. Is there or is there not a multidimensional full connection of love between those you don't know or don't pretend to know, but whose souls are very much like yours? Remember, in a multidimensional state, there's no such thing as a place. There's no such thing truly as size, large or small. It just is. This is the confusion quite often of a multidimensional state. What about consciousness? I'll tell you this, perhaps for the first time, it's everywhere. Your consciousness is their consciousness, and they're filing in now because you're going to do something next week together. I want you to sit for a moment and feel the family. What can you give to each other? What do you want to talk about? Before a healing might start, are you aware, dear Circle of 12 members, that you are a family, face to face, that you are able to help one another, to heal each other, to inform each other, to hold each other's hand, to wash each other's feet, to get to know each other in a way that you've never, ever thought of. Are you with me? I want you to hold that thought and meet the family in these next moments. All of you, meet each other. You're going to need to, because we want you to do something next week together. So we'll start doing these kinds of things where we present things that are one step to the next. You're here. Meet the family, dear ones, because they want to meet you. There's so much you can do for one another. Believe me. Stay for a while. And so it is.